Today's episode of WTF is sponsored by Audible. Go to audiblepodcast.com/WTFpod to get a free audiobook download. Do it now.
Lock the gate!
Are we doing this? Really? Wait for it. Are we doing this? Wait for it.
Pow!
What the fuck?
WTF.
And it's also, what the fuck? What's wrong with me?
It's time for WTF.
What the fuck?
With Marc Maron.
Okay, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers? What the fuck buddies? What the fucking ears? What the fuck nicks? What the fuckables? That's a new one. But I can't get into the list. I am Marc Maron. This is WTF. Thank you for listening. Thanks for joining us here at the WTF show, in the garage, at the Cat Ranch. Hold on, let's get a lot of stuff out of the way right now. I'm just back from Vegas. I'm exhausted. I'm trying to regroup. I'm trying to rejigger my brain. I was overstimulated by all that bullshit in Las Vegas for the last 3 days, and I got home, collapsed on the bed, and now I got a cup of this. Pow! Whoa! I just shit my pants. That's justcoffee.coop, available at WTFpod.com. I'm going to try to get a lot of stuff out of the way in a more professional format. Like, I'm going to try to do my plugs up front as I talk. Right here, right now, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be at Hilarities this week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday at Hilarities in Cleveland, Ohio. That is 25, 26, 27, 28 of August. So if you're in the Cleveland area or anywhere in Ohio and want to make the trip, please come down. It's going to be fun. I hear it's a great place. I've never been there. I've never worked this club. I've heard about this club since I started doing comedy. I'm just fortunate enough to, at this late stage of my career, to all of a sudden have the opportunity to work at all the clubs I dreamed of working when I was a younger comic, but could not get into. That's exciting to me. On the show today, Carol Leifer, the amazing Carol Leifer, a prolific comedy writer, stand-up comedian, very interesting life turns. She was married to a comic briefly. I have to ask her about whether or not Elaine on Seinfeld was based on her. She was friends with that whole New York crew. She came up with those guys in New York. Very excited to talk to Carol Leifer. She will be in the garage momentarily. Meanwhile, what about me? What about Marc? How about Marc's needs? Why don't we talk about those for a few minutes? Because we so rarely do, am I right? So I was in Vegas for 3 days, and I really have to, in a big way, thank you WTF people that came out, because I'm not a Vegas guy. I don't really see myself as a Vegas act. I've been to this club a couple times before. It's a nice room. The guy who runs it's a great guy. Court's a good dude. I knew what I was getting into, but I don't know. It could have been shitty if you people did not come down. It was a pleasure to see you. Get a couple CDs out to you. Give you the new buttons. Got the new buttons. Hold on a second. Buttons. I got a deal for you. I just remembered this. Are buttons back? I believe they are, because I just ordered a bunch of buttons, because a cat from a button company sent me some ideas for buttons, and I thought, why not get buttons? And now I'm going to plug the button company, Busy Beaver Button Company. All right? This guy approached me out of nowhere, and I got some buttons. This is an interesting company, because their first customer was the band Guided by Voices, and I guess in the past 15 years, the business has grown from this one woman who started the business, to like a ton of people. They make buttons for everyone, artists, bands, nonprofits, organizations, events, anyone can get some buttons. How fun are fucking buttons? Starting at orders of 50 buttons. They can do any size, any color. They've made buttons for Mitch Hedberg, Dave Attell, Louis Black. How can you not have fun just getting buttons? I gotta be honest with you. I bought, before I even knew I would be, having them as a sponsor in any way, I got 3 bags of buttons, and it's just fun to have a bag of buttons. God damn it, how much do I like saying buttons? If you go to busybeaver.net/WTF right now, you can get a free limited edition glow-in-the-dark WTF with Marc Maron button. The first 500 people to go there can get the button, so go for it. busybeaver.net/WTF. Free, limited engagement, glow-in-the-dark WTF with Marc Maron button for the first 500 people. That's right. That's from Busy Beaver Button Company. Alliteration. God bless it. All right, moving on. I'm glad I remembered that button shit, though. So I was in Las Vegas. As I said, thank you for coming out. Thanks for the nice little gifts, the tortilla chips and the green salsa that is still burning through my intestines right now. It's only the green chilies. I don't know why. Jalapenos, green chilies, have a little trouble with them. Doesn't stop me from eating them. I appreciate it. You know how I feel about Vegas. I think it's a soul suck. I think it's a parade of sadness, that there's a deep effort to have a predictable good time, and I never know if anyone really is having a good time. I do know that getting up to go to the breakfast buffet at 7 a.m. before you go do radio, it's like taking a collective walk of shame with a bunch of people coming from different shameful behaviors. I, of course, was just coming from my room, but there was shame in that because sometimes things happen in the room when I'm alone that I'm not proud of, but they happen. It's a hotel. I'm on the road. What are you going to do? But more importantly, I tried to overcome my fear of losing money. I don't like to gamble. I've talked about this before. I'm not a good gambler. I don't usually get very lucky. And I ended up thinking once again that and I know that they're banking on this in Vegas. I know that they are waiting for someone like me to go, maybe this is my time. Maybe for once in my life, I can get lucky and get at least, I'm not even looking to win hundreds of thousands of dollars or anything like that. I just want to feel the buzz of gambling. I want to feel what it's like to be on a roll. I want to have the opportunity to get addicted to something new. I want to feel that compulsion, that not just the need to win, but that feeling of winning over and over and over again that you want to chase for the rest of your life. I want to give up my life, my house, my career to an obsessive, sick gambling addiction. Can't I have that opportunity? I mean, look, I've been sober for 12 years. It's time to start something new. So I did my best. I sat down, I started playing blackjack, and I swear to you, within an hour, I was down like $300, which was the limit that I gave myself. $300, that's it. Fuck you, no more. I can live with that. Problem was, that was Thursday. I was there through Saturday. So that required willpower, not only not to gamble, but not to, get my fucking money back. I don't need to take that shit from a casino, them taking my money. So what happened was I was willing to live with it, but then it made me feel stinky. It made me feel awful. It made me feel like an idiot. There I am working at a club, working at a casino. They're paying me pretty good, but not that great. Now I just dumped $300 of my hard-earned dollars back into their operation. I know everyone's got to make a living, and I know casinos need to make a living. I know they're hurting down there, but it's really not on me to frame it that way. I feel guilty. It's $300. It's a good cause to keep Vegas alive. That's not the way I think. So come Friday, I'm like, fuck it. I'm going to have to invest another $100 to get my $300 back. Maybe I'll get that roll. Maybe I'll get that new life as a gambling addict. So I start playing, and I allotted myself another $100 to get my $300 back. All right, $500 in. So $200 later, I'm down. Now I'm down $500. I don't have that kind of money. I'm just basically spending the money I haven't even been paid to do the fucking stand-up show for. So now I hate myself because I'm an idiot. And also I've decided that I have bad luck. I've talked about this before. It's like, how can I not get one little buzz, one little string of good cards, one little exciting moment? But then I found the game, folks. I found the beautiful game. It's a hand-dealt 2-deck blackjack, and they deal you 2 cards down. The dealer gets 1 down and 1 up, and it moves fast. And people seem to be intimidated about it, so no one's ever playing it. And I sat down, and this was it, man. This was my game. It moved fast. It was exciting. And now I'm $500 in, and then I'm like, this is it. I'm gonna get it back now. So I put another $100 down, and within 30 seconds, that's a stretch. Within 4 minutes, I lost $100 more. And now I'm angry, and I'm like, what the fuck? I'm gonna $100 more in chips. So now I'm going in $700, and then I lose that. Except for $50. So I lost $50. So now I'm in for like $650. It's awful. No fun, no buzz, no rolls. Just this constant indication that I am a fucking idiot. And I just kept playing, and something turned around. And I started winning, and I won like $200. I was playing $25 hands because I wanted to get my money back. I won $200, and I said, you know what? I'm going to stop. I'm going to enjoy the buzz of that. And I walked away. A few hours later, went back, started playing again, won another $200. And I'm like, this is pretty good. This could be a living, I think. Just, speculative blackjack playing with no system in place. And then I step away from the table, and then I go back, and I finally get all my fucking money back the night after the second show on Saturday night, right before I'm about to go home. I'm at that table, and I'm sitting there with a stack of all the money. I'd already put $400 up in my room because I didn't want to touch it, so I was going back with just $100, and I broke even. And I want to say, as a testament to me, that when I broke even, I could have started over and said, no, I'm going to give myself a $300 limit. But, folks, I did not do that. I went upstairs. I stacked my chips. I looked at them. I didn't cash them until the next day, so I left Las Vegas even. And for some reason, I believe that's winning. And I don't think I'm going to become a gambling addict. I wish I would have had a more exciting button to that story. More exciting, sort of like, then I went upstairs, I got all 700, I put them on black, and I won, and I'm $1,400 up. Then I put all $1,400 on the number 27, and I won, and now I've got some amount of money, and then I put it all on black again, and now I have $1 million, and I'm gonna buy myself a new garage. Did not happen. Broke even, got up too early, felt shitty, ate a lot of buffet. God, the compromises you make with your dietary integrity when there is a buffet around. Holy shit, I was eating things I would never eat. Did not eat the raw oysters at the buffet. Do not think that's a good idea. Saw raw oysters. I said, do you eat raw oysters at a buffet? Hell no. Did not eat the raw oysters. Did eat bread pudding, rice pudding, soft serve ice cream, crab legs. Ate those. Mound of barbecue at a buffet. That's if there's anything I'm ashamed of in terms of what happened in Vegas. What didn't stay in Vegas was my knowledge that I sat there and continued to eat plate after plate of food at a free buffet because it was free. And I was just one of those people. Yep. I'm a buffet eater. So now I'm back. I flew home, got in my car. Nice surprise in the car. Ants in the car. How the hell does that happen? How do I have ants in my car? Where the fuck are they coming from? Is there a colony of ants in my car? Is there a queen ant burrowed under the seat with their big, gross, distended egg sac just laying there defenseless, surrounded by an army of idiots who are wandering around my car looking for little pieces of candy and sugary things? How the fuck are there ants in my car? I mean, is that what kind of indication is that? How did my car become the free buffet for the ants at the little at the casino beneath the rug in my fucking Camry? I don't know. I don't know where they came from. I don't know if I was parked on an anthill. I don't know what to do about it. I have to assume it's not a colony and it's just some renegades. So I've got some mercenary force of ants who are now far away from, their army and are now subcontracting. Hopefully they'll get out of my car. Maybe they'll meet my community of ants here and be taken in and looked after as members of another tribe who will now work with us to make life miserable for Marc when he gets up and he sees us, parading around his fucking sink in the morning. As is sometimes the case, this episode of WTF is brought to you by Audible.com. You can go to audiblepodcast.com/WTFpod to get a free audiobook download and a 14-day trial. You can do that on me. Go get yourself a free book. Audible has like 80,000 things, things you stick in your ear and listen to. You like me? You like listening to podcasts? Go grab yourself a book. Every time I do these advertisements, I go over to Audible and I try to plug in what we're talking about to get a sense of what we got. What do we got? Search. Keyword. Gambling. Okay. What is this? Here's an audiobook. The Compass of Pleasure. How our brains make fatty foods, orgasm, exercise, marijuana, generosity, vodka, learning, and gambling feel so good. Holy, is that a list of my life? Is that a to-do list? How our brains make fatty foods, orgasm, exercise, marijuana, generosity, vodka, learning, and gambling feel so good. I would certainly like to know how my brain does that and how I can make it do it more. Perhaps with some of the better things on this list, like generosity, learning, and orgasm, and exercise. Go to audiblepodcast.com/WTF pod and get that free download. Perhaps download The Compass of Pleasure. Perhaps that's what I'm going to download. But as I said, there's 85,000 other choices. You can also get to that link on WTFpod.com. audiblepodcast.com/WTF pod. Get a free book on me. Paul Reiser in here.
Oh my God.
I know.
Do you know he's the whole reason I do stand-up? I started stand-up, but that's good for the air.
Yeah, well, we can get into it. We can be on the air as quickly as now.
Oh, wow.
Can you hear yourself?
Yes, through the miracle of fiber optics.
Yeah, it all works. In my garage here at the Cat Ranch today is Carol Leifer. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Marc.
Yeah, Paul was in here. Who else did I interview that you would know? I mean, I interviewed Richard Lewis. I got up here.
Uh-huh.
That was no easy chore.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, he required a car. He didn't want to drive. And I was lucky enough to get him at 9 a.m, so he was actually relatively slow-paced.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Actually, Richard Lewis was a class behind me.
Yeah.
In starting in New York when I did.
So how did Paul Reiser play into your starting?
Well, here's the really wild story.
Okay.
So I went to school... college in Binghamton, New York. You're from New York,
well,
right?
no, I grew. My family's from Jersey. I grew up in New Mexico. It's SUNY Binghamton.
Yes.
Okay.
And we were in a theater group together.
He told me about this theater group.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And he was like the funny guy in the theater group, and I was the funny gal.
Uh-huh.
And we started going out. I fell in love with him, like I did many funny guys, because he knew the 2,000-Year-Old Man album.
Sure. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
could lip sync it like I could.
Uh-huh.
And he grew up in the city. I was from Long Island. He said, you know, during the summer I go to these comedy clubs like Catch Rising Star, and I go on and I audition. And
Uh-huh.
I was like, wow, that sounds like a really, but it was so new, like in college, like
Right.
this guy goes to nightclubs, like,
But
what's
you
the
weren't.
story?
But you weren't thinking about doing stand-up.
I wasn't thinking about it at all.
Right.
And then I went with him and tried it
Yeah.
at Catch Rising Star. And
Yeah.
And it went well, and to the point where he was a year ahead of me at school. And we both passed the audition at the comic strip, passed by Jerry Seinfeld. And I transferred to Queens College to finish school. And Paul had graduated, and we started our stand-up comedy careers. But I always say to Paul, and we're still really dear, good friends, I really feel like maybe if I hadn't met him and found that path into stand-up, and also having someone hold my hand, kind of, do it that way,
Right.
if I would have even found it.
It's probably not.
Right?
What do you mean Seinfeld passed you? Did he have that power at that time? Was he hosting? What do you mean?
He was the MC,
Oh, okay.
and he'd only been doing it a year, but he was already a star at the comic strip.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. So that class then, I see it in classes too, and it gets a little hazy around those classes. But so your class was then Seinfeld. He's a little bit ahead of you.
Right.
Reiser, you, Larry
Miller.
Mark Schiff, Larry Miller.
Exactly.
He was in here.
Uh-huh.
Who else was there? Dennis Wolfberg.
Dennis Wolfberg, Rita Rudner.
Oh my God. Do you talk to her?
You know, I haven't seen Rita because I think,
Australia,
lives in,
right?
She lives in Vegas and has her own
Vegas.
room there.
Who am I thinking about? Didn't she marry an Australian?
She did marry a promoter.
Uh-huh.
I think he's British, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So she's got a regular gig in Vegas.
Yeah, she's got a regular good swinging gig in Vegas.
Wow.
Yeah.
And she had a talk show for a while, but let's get back to you. I just saw your young comedian special, I think.
My God.
They run it on HBO Comedy. You know?
I know. I know from the weird Facebook messages I get.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You're on. It's time travel.
Yes,
You're
your daughter's on TV.
That was like, it must have been like the second or third one. What was that?
It was 1983.
Steve Sweeney, you.
Steve Sweeney, Bill Maher.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Looking all puffy-faced. And it's amazing how much his style has not changed outside of him being political
Yes.
in terms of his structure. He
That's
was part of
true.
that group too, right?
He was part of that group.
Was he always like he was?
He was always Yeah, you know, what I loved about that time, and, you know, I am very nostalgic about my comedy
good.
roots because.
I'm so glad.
Yeah, I have really powerful, great feelings about it, is because I feel like it's a time gone by. We all liked each other and watched each other and critiqued each other and helped each other. And
Sure.
I remember when Bill Maher first came on, and you know that feeling when a bunch of comedians sit and watch. You know, a club manager can say,
Yeah.
"Oh, I saw somebody good," and it's like, "No, let the comedians watch." And then it's
yeah.
like, "No, this guy's really good,"
Oh,
you know,
really?
and you know it
Yeah,
in
yeah,
2
yeah.
seconds. Now, where did you start out at?
I basically started in college, and I moved out here for a year. I was a doorman at the Comedy Store, and then I kind of hit the wall. I moved back to Boston in '88, so I started there, kinda. And then I moved to New York in '89. So the original Improv was in its last throes.
Right.
Silver had it, so I was able to perform there. The original Catch I never got to do because Lewis never liked me, but I hung around there. But that would have been the late '80s, so you know, you guys were long gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember maybe seeing Larry David once or twice, and Fred Stoller and some other people, Larry Amoros. But were you even doing comedy? You were doing comedy through the '80s,
I was.
and you married a comic.
Yes, I did.
I tried to get him on the show after seeing that movie. He was in Rich Scheidner, and I've talked to him a bit, but I haven't been able to get him.
Oh,
out of all the comics, out of all the Jews in the world,
Yeah.
you marry that guy who's not a Jew and he's 9 feet tall and, and he's nuts.
Well, he is a very interesting guy and a very charismatic
No,
guy.
I like him. I'm not saying anything negative about him.
So, you know, that's what led me to marrying him. But, you know, I think we would both agree that it was kind of a rash decision, you know, maybe something, it was a crazy time. It was doing a lot of drugs and,
Yeah.
you know, nutty, crazy when you're in your early 20s kind of thing.
Didn't you guys tour together?
We did a little bit.
I kind of remember that.
Yeah, you know why? Because I never liked to close because I didn't like that pressure. And he was a great closer because he's so big and loud.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if I can middle and you can close, like, let's tour.
Because
know?
I was never been able to talk to like significant others of comics. Someone suggested I do a show with wives or girlfriends of comedians. And none of the comedians will really allow it.
I'm surprised.
Well, I think they're afraid that the truth will be revealed about what insecure, unbearable people they are.
Well, you know, at this point, it was so long ago. It's really like it is another life.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to because I like people who are nostalgic about coming from comedy because I am that way too. I feel intrinsically and emotionally connected to almost everybody I started with, even if I didn't talk to them that much.
Yes.
At that time, there was really 2 clubs, or maybe like Dangerfields was probably there, but it was the comic strip Catch, sometimes Dangerfields.
No, it was the
Dangerfields?
comic strip Catch and the Improv.
Oh, the Improv.
Yeah, and Dangerfields was kind of like you do it for. I remember doing prom shows there.
Right, like it was like that then? Like
Yeah.
this weird place no one went
Yeah,
because
no,
it was
you
too
did not
creepy?
go on there regularly. No,
Like only 3 people did. Hiram Kasdan used to host there, and that was it.
Yeah,
And
I didn't even know that Hiram.
Yeah, I remember he hosted an
there.
open mic there. I played there once, maybe when I was in college.
Yeah.
To audition, and he was there, like still talking like he talks.
Right.
And that's all I remember about it, other than being a frightening place.
Yeah. No, there were the 3 clubs, and you know what I think is interesting, and it would be interesting to the audience, is like, we've never met before.
Yeah.
I've certainly, you know, heard about you over the years and heard that you're, you know, a great comic, and have heard, you know, WTF and all
Yeah.
that. But it's like, even not knowing each other, the fact that we're both, you know, came up as stand-ups, there's like a bond there instantly.
Yeah.
That, you know, it just happens.
Yeah.
It's just a kinship.
Yeah,
you know?
it's weird, right?
Yeah, and it is. And because a comedian, I really find that other comedians only understand other comedians. And as much as you know, I have a great partner now, which is a whole other story, that I've been with someone I love and for 15 years. And as much as I love her, like, she'll never understand my world of stand-up like other comedians do,
Right,
you
because
know?
it crosses gender and race and everything else. That the basic understanding of comedians is that we're all in this weird gypsy-like selfish kind of. I can't quite explain it, but I definitely know what you're talking about.
And it's a guerrilla way of making a living,
Right,
you know, as opposed to.
And then if it's a Jew comedian, then you have the Jewish thing too.
Yes, yes.
So then it's double layered.
But I mean, I was thinking about it because even this past Saturday night, I did stand up for a charity event, like I do a lot. And, it's so typical. Before I did the gig, I said to them, it was in New Jersey, I said to this group, I would love to go on early in the evening. And what I find when I go on early is it's good for the crowd. It brings a lot of energy and it'll be great.
Yeah.
And they got back to me and said, you know what? We always find comedy after the second intermission is better. That works for us. Anyway, they were paying me, so I felt like I couldn't push it that far. And I went on for an event that started at 5:00 at 11:30 at night. And
no.
You know.
And how much were you freaking out before? Just like
I was totally freaking out and really angry and mad, which as a performer is the worst thing to get your head in that space. And you have no recourse because you're not with an agent or manager. And it's just you. And any other comic knows about structuring a show. You can't put on a charity show and start at 5 and think you're going to entertain people at 11:30 at night.
At what age were they? Were they middle-aged people? I mean,
no, they were, I would say 35 was the average age.
Okay. So you're steaming backstage.
Yes.
And there's no one to call.
No one to call. Nothing to do.
And how are they handling it? Are they like, don't worry? Or
I'm so sorry. It's just, it ran like, it runs long. It's like, of course these things run long because you're presenting these awards to people and they don't understand. We know. Because this is what we do for a living. It's torturous for the audience. You're torturing your audience. You should always make a charity show max 2 hours.
Right.
And then you'll get people to come back next year and they'll give you even more money. But when you make it torturous for the audience and then for your performers, it's disaster.
What happened?
So I went on 11:30. You could feel them being like, I want to get home. I need to get home.
Gotta go.
And I did a very short set and they were very polite with their applause. I passed a ton of people as I was going to the gig in the hotel going, we wanted to stay, but we're so tired. And we know any other comic has been in that situation like me 3,000 times before and knows it and knows the horribleness, the walking off and nobody parts the curtain for you and you're looking for the curtain to, where it breaks.
The embarrassment on top of it to add to things. You got to stumble around like an idiot.
Exactly.
What kind of charities do you usually do?
I do. Here's the thing. A lot of times, I really feel, charitable about a lot of things, and I'll waive my fee if they buy a lot of books. Yeah. And this group bought 600 of my books. I'll waive my fee.
If you, what's the title of it?
It's called When You Lie About Your Age, The Terrorists Win.
All right. So if they,
okay. So if they buy a bunch of books. So this was, for marriage equality. Okay. A Jersey group. So for, the gay groups, the animal groups, cause I'm a big animal person. Yeah. Jewish. Yeah. Woman, pro-choice, feminist things. Yeah. And I think that's pretty much the gamut of my, Those are my big 4 things. So a lot of times people will say, will you do this event? And, I'll do that for them if I feel a certain, kinship, a little tzedakah. Yeah. Not to be confused with Neil for,
for whatever their cause is.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go back to, what is it, the late 70s?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to know who your generation was sitting around looking at, because when I was coming up, there was always the guys ahead of us were, well, you got to watch this guy. And I have to imagine at that time, was Andy Kaufman was around?
No.
He was gone?
He was the class before me. Even Elaine Boozler, who I saw and felt like, oh, I want to be like her. Right. Is a comedian I can relate to, who's not just doing Am I Right, Ladies and, girl shit. Yeah. She was already gone too when I started.
So who was around?
Well, it was Seinfeld was the star. And like I said, it was amazing that he'd only been doing it for so short a time. Right. And he was perceived that way. He was the only person of my generation who we all fucked around all day. That's the beauty of, being
just
that
wandering
age.
Around,
and he was like,
down.
I have to write every day. And we're like, oh God, It was like an hour, but he seemed like Einstein to us. To have to go off and
you guys just wanted to go eat.
Yeah,
or
we
get
just
drunk or
exactly.
Eat. Yeah.
But like people you were saying, Larry Miller. Of the bigger people, like I remember Robert Klein coming into the Improv and seeing me, and I had a particularly bad set, but coming over to me and saying, "Stay with this. You have something. You have a spark. Don't let the audience." Bum you out, keep doing it. He was, I think, our god. Yeah. He's,
it took me a long time to appreciate him. I had some weird, interaction with him where he was, very overbearing and a bit nasty.
Yeah,
And,
that can kill it for you.
But he was never one of my guys when I was growing up. But I went back. I actually watched him on SNL when he hosted SNL, like in that first season.
Wow.
And it was like, holy shit. I mean, he had this capacity to like song and dance and mimic and everything, and just making these huge bits. Mm-hmm. He was pretty amazing to watch.
Yeah, he was definitely, and Richard Pryor,
At the
Improv?
Movie, or no, the first concert movie.
The first concert movie,
live in concert. Mm-hmm, that changed my life.
Right?
That thing was amazing.
Yeah.
Just talking about yourself, that kind of vulnerability. Mm-hmm. Awesome. But like, you're a real comic. I mean, Christ, you do comedy still, and you were stand-up for years.
Yeah.
I mean, some people like did stand-up and then got the opportunities that you did, and then just kind of, let it go.
No, I don't think you can ever give it up.
Well, even talking to Paul, even talking to Reiser, when you really look at his career, he was intensive stand-up for maybe 7 years, and then he got a huge break, and then, then he could really pick and choose. And it doesn't seem like he keeps his chops in place.
No, it's what's so interesting too about him as a real artist. When I met him in college, he was a music major.
Right.
And, was brilliant with composing and on piano. And, he's taken that now to doing this album with Julia Fordham. I'm going to actually go see him next month at the Roxy, I think. And, that he's explored that side of himself. But, I've always felt like being a comic, it's in my DNA. It's like in the bones. Yeah. And there was a time when I was writing for Seinfeld that I didn't do stand-up as much. And then I would go on stage. I remember the first time I went on, it was like, I felt like an auditioner. It's like, I'm never going to happen again. I need to honor like what gave me everything. Yeah. And what kind of makes me tick too.
Well, that's great to hear that. Yeah. Because there's some, like, even, even Richard Lewis was, as respectful as he is of his peers, he's like, I'm still doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm still out there and I love it. This is what makes me tick. So, like, when it comes to your parents, you talk a lot about being a Jew. I talk a lot about being a Jew, but I'm not a Long Island Jew. That's a very specific, very sort of, it seems authentic Jewish archetype.
Yeah.
Now, what was that like for you? What were their responses to it? Where did they come from?
Well, my father, who has since passed, wanted to be a comedian. It was his dream. And he was very funny and was like the Tumblr, the joke teller of the neighborhood. Yeah. And everybody always knew him as funny. And I watched him as a little girl telling these jokes and the power of it, and really was enthralled by it. Uh-huh. And so when I started to want to become a comedian, I remember my father, was like, I was like, oh, I passed the audition at the comic strip. My father was like, well, Carol, show business is a big cash business, and you can't beat cash.
At least he was supportive.
Totally. No, he was like, you got to strike while the iron's hot. Yeah. He was really happy for me. And I look back now that he's not here anymore, and that he didn't fulfill his dream, but was so happy for me that I did. Is really,
what kind of business was he in?
He was an optometrist, and his name was Seymour.
Seymour.
See, look at that.
Yeah.
But, he told jokes to his patients and all that. Yeah. And my mother, is still living. She is a shrink.
Really?
And, yes.
And has been your whole life?
Yeah, she became a shrink. She got her degree, like, when I was in high school. But, I think the combination of, like this outgoing comedian father and my mother, the quiet, more intellectual shrink, as I'm kind of like the fused version of it.
Well, that's nice, though, that it sounds like at least they're both intelligent people and they were supportive, and, they didn't go through that period where they were frightened for your choices?
No, my mother did admit she's at times a little too honest about things.
Oh, isn't that horrible? There shouldn't be a statute of limitations on shit your parents can tell you. Like, I've realized this later in life where my parents are about to, I want to tell you, what? Let me just stay in the dark.
Right.
I don't.
Well, she confided that she did think that it was something I would have gotten out of my system, and I would have gone on to be a lawyer. Yeah. Yeah. But, my father, the most important, he did get to see some great things that I feel really, great about. Like, the first time I did the Letterman show, it wasn't really doing the Letterman show as much as my father seeing my name in the New York Times.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that was a big deal. Yeah. And that I got reviewed by the New York Times, and I got a great review. Yeah. And he came with me to Westbury Music Fair when I opened for Jay Leno. And I had a great set, and I did really well. But the next day, I got in the review in Newsday, they gave a great review to Jay, and they panned me. And I thought my father said, as a really good Jewish father would, he said, The reviewer is clearly anti-Semitic.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that your generation came on the sort of breaking wave of that old-timey show business. That, there was still, like Jay must have been, he must have been in his 30s at that time, and he was big already, right?
Yeah. When I
Kinda.
opened for him, it was 87. Yeah.
So there were still guys around like Alan King, and those guys were still performing, and how much opening work did you do? Did you open for big, like, old-timey guys?
I opened for, a lot of people like the Pointer Sisters and...
Oh, you did that, huh? The music? Was it horrible?
It wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
But the music acts weren't as bad. I mean, I opened, though, for the Beach Boys once. One of the Beach Boys, this is how long ago it was, who's, like, dead now.
Well, that's
Carl
several
Love,
of them. Yeah.
Saw me on Letterman and asked me to open for them.
Carl Wilson?
Carl Wilson,
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
In Lake Tahoe.
Yeah.
For them. And I'd only been doing stand-up for a little bit, and I wasn't casino ready.
Right.
And so I was with them for New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And the audience obviously was very drunk, and there were these like frat guys right in the front.
That's already bad.
And they literally were pulling on the mic cord. So, and nobody was policing the room, so I'm literally having a tug of war first about the mic.
Yeah.
And they were chanting reefer, like,
yeah.
instead of my name. And that was the worst gig
Isn't
ever.
that weird that, given that gig that you did the other night and given that experience, that these are not unusual experiences, that there's this constant battle. Yeah, like I quoted a lot, but Harry Shearer once said to me that, comedians do what they do to try to control why people laugh at them. Like in my heart, the most horrifying thing for me as a person is to be embarrassed. I don't want to be caught off guard. I don't want to be standing there embarrassed.
Right.
Yet every night we put ourselves in these positions where there's no way you're not going to be embarrassed.
I know.
And it could happen any fucking point in your career. Some idiot can tug on your mic cord and you got to sit there and wrestle with this dummy.
Exactly. I mean, even to the point of, and it never ends, of this past Saturday night, walking off stage where people have been sitting there for 6.5 hours looking for the opening for the curtain. But see, this is why I love stand-up, though, because it makes you, I think, a really strong person. Because any personal stuff that I've experienced that's embarrassing or horrible, it's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like, what I experience at work is 30 times worse than this shit. This is a piece of cake.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So when you were, so now you knew Larry and you knew Jerry. Now you knew Larry as a stand-up. Were you guys friends?
As a stand-up, when I auditioned at Catch Rising Star, he was the MC, the host. And
Larry David was.
Yeah, and he passed me on that audition.
So he was the guy that, at where, Catch? Mm-hmm. And he, I only saw him a couple times and I never saw him finish a set.
Right?
I mean, I saw him when I was very young, and I think it was just after he had done Fridays.
Yes.
And he, twice I saw him, would not finish.
He had the shortest fuse ever.
He would get, but 3 minutes in.
I know.
I'm done. I'd go.
But it was always based on, if somebody wasn't looking or listening or said something to him, he would just be like, that's it, I'm out of here. And if you knew you were going on after Larry David, if your spot was at 12:10, you had to be there at 11:50 because you knew at any second he could walk off.
And as off stage, was he a pleasant person?
People always ask about him. I mean, obviously the connection to Seinfeld, ask about him, ask about Jerry. I don't think people realize what a softy he is. I mean,
I was surprised when I met him, later, recently. And the difference between him and the character is extreme.
Yeah.
You watch enough Curb, you sort of want to believe that's him. But he's a very sweet guy. And
he just has the biggest heart.
Yeah. What about Jerry, though? I mean, I don't want to be catty, and I know you get asked these questions a lot, but I'm one of these people, for as long as I've been doing comedy, I'm willing to appreciate Jerry Seinfeld for what he's contributed in as a comic, but I never, ever got a sense of who that guy was. And for me, when I watch comics, I need to see their vulnerability. And I would watch him for years. I know he's a great craftsman and everything else, but I just never got a sense of who he was as a person. I'm
surprised only because, especially working with someone, when you work with someone for 75 episodes on something, you really see the real personality of somebody. And, there were so many comics who were really kind of hysterical bosses, along the, the Roseanne
funny
stories
or
that you hear.
Or bad hysterical.
Bad hysterical,
Okay.
where people were afraid and, a fellow comics as writers intimidated them.
Yeah.
I mean, I always say this about Jerry, and I mean it. He's the most together person I've ever met who hasn't had any therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, he's very even and a great person to work for, and people loved working for him. And Larry, I think what they also smartly did was set up a very good, team working together. I mean, Larry really supervised the show, obviously because Jerry was in it and couldn't oversee all the details, but always deferred to Jerry. Like if there was a question about a bit or an idea or a joke, Larry was always, it's Jerry's call because his name is on the show. And I thought that was really smart. But working for them, it was a great environment, a pleasant environment. And Jerry never needed to throw around the weight of his ego to the people that worked for him, which, I think is rare.
Yeah.
A lot of people, stand-ups could be monsters in that situation.
And he probably appreciated the fact that he was surrounded by great actors and great writers, and that he actually knew his limitations. I mean, which is important as a grown-up to know.
Right.
That we're all a team here, and it's all going to make the final product look good. And I think your explanation of him would explain why I've been uncomfortable with him. I have a very difficult time with people who are together.
Maybe that's it.
I mean, if I'm in conversation with someone who's got their shit together, it's going to be hard for me not to try to make them fall apart somehow.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I emotionally connect with people.
Right.
Because I don't know where you're coming from.
But, I think also I have an advantage, I think, being female in that I feel like the guys that I started with really, I feel like I have a kind of brotherly, sisterly relationship with. They kind of, like a big brother kind of thing. And I still get advice from, he's also a very sage person just about the business. And, even when I was a stand-up starting out and I would get discouraged, he made a baseball analogy to me that I didn't really understand. I had to explain a really good batter is a 3-something, has a 3-something
I'm
average.
not a sports guy,
Oh, okay. But, meaning you hit, 3 times out of 10.
Right.
So you have to look at the bigger picture and not set by set of getting good and getting better.
And you were on that writing staff for the first season, or how many seasons?
I was on for the 3 middle seasons.
Okay. And now I don't know if it's true that they based Elaine on you somewhat. I know you probably fielded that question before, but is that true?
Have I?
Well, we don't have to do it. I mean, it's sort of an interesting story.
Yeah. It's kind of something that really took on a life of its own. When It's really a small detail. I mean, I know that when they were coming up with the characters for the show, I know that Jerry thought it'd be interesting to have a female character that you've already dated because it really changes the dynamic of it in a myriad of interesting ways. And so in that respect, I think, that's an inspiration from, our relationship. But besides that,
you dated him?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God, you dated all the comics.
I did.
So that's Reiser, Seinfeld, Scheidner. Mm-hmm. Who else?
Oh, God. Probably those are the big 3.
Well, let's go with some second stringers. I've been around a long time. I just want some dirt now.
Here's the thing, too. I like funny people.
Yeah.
I loved funny men.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize, too, when you're coming up as a comic, and especially at that time, every night I went on a comedy club.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
your life, right. And they understood your life.
Right.
Yeah.
And if you go to the movies, you go during the day.
Yeah.
Because at night, you're at the clubs.
Right.
And you're doing 3 sets a night.
No, I understand it.
Yeah. And I know you've had your dalliances with funny women.
Yeah,
so I think that,
Wait, what do you know?
I know.
What kind of research did you do? I married one, but she didn't stay in the business, but I've dated a couple. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
The only difficult thing about it is that, there is sort of a point where someone's going to overshadow the other one.
Right.
And, to be supportive effectively becomes difficult when your egos are involved, or if opportunities are had by one or the other. It becomes a mess.
Yeah.
Did you find that?
Well, I think that, it is complicated. It's definitely a complicated situation. And I always look at, like the Academy Awards, like when Julia Roberts won the Oscar and she was with, I think, Benjamin Bratt.
Yeah.
It's like I always watch them up on the winners thing and it's like, bye-bye relationship. Won't
yeah.
see you a year from now.
That's right.
It's I think it's just too hard. And I think in having a successful relationship now, having someone who's not in the business really has worked better for me.
Yeah, it's better because especially if they don't even give a shit about it in some level, that you're just who you are and you have your job and they're not hung up on that guy or this guy, or you sit in front of the TV going, oh, fuck, look at that. Why is that guy getting that?
Yeah, because it will get competitive like that.
Oh, yeah, it's the worst.
But
so you did 2 series, right, that you created?
Yeah.
After Seinfeld.
Yes.
And one it ran for a little while. What happened with those?
One of them was called All Right Already.
Yeah, which I always liked because I thought it was so Jewy yet slightly coded.
Super Cody Jewy.
You know what I'm saying, though.
Yes, I do.
Already,
yeah. That was on the WB.
And you starred in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it ran for a season, and it's something I'm still very proud of, even though it didn't go beyond one season. I don't know. I feel kind of, Garth Ancier at the time was the head of WB, and I felt a little bit of vindication that I saw him at a party at Max Munchnick's a couple years ago, and he really was, he'd had a lot to drink, and Garth Ancier came over and said, I'm so sorry about canceling.
Really?
All Right Already, yeah. And I was like, Garth, even though you've had a couple of cocktails, I'll take that to the bank, that made me feel really good.
That's great.
But, it was really fun. I had a great writing staff, and I thought we put on, made some great shows, and Jerry Adler played my father, and Mitzi McCall was my mom, and Amy Yazbek and, some great people in it. You just go on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't, what was the reason? Was it just a viewership reason or didn't, what?
Yeah, they said that, the ratings weren't high enough. I mean, I look back now, it's kind of like what some of the Thursday night comedies on NBC get.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But, there's so much you can't control in show business, and that's once it's like grasshopper. Like once you get that, you control the things you can't control, and the things you can't control, like just say, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly.
That you just
or else
on.
you're just going to be the heartbreak is unbearable over and over again.
Yeah,
and then there was another one, right?
And then I co-created Ellen DeGeneres' second sitcom with the brilliant Mitch Hurwitz. Of Arrested Development.
Yeah.
And that was a good experience, but also, a weird time in the. Ellen had lost her other show. She'd kind of been pummeled about that, about coming out, and then a year later went on to do her talk show. So,
which is huge.
Yeah.
And she got a lot of love there. Mm-hmm. Were you out then?
I wasn't. Out only because I was more behind, behind the scenes.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't until my book came out that I really started to do the round of, doing Letterman and all the big talk shows again that, I started to talk about it because I talk about it in my book.
Right. Now, before we get into that, your relationship with Letterman, I mean, you were on a lot. I mean, like you and Richard were on a lot.
25 times.
And what was your relationship with him? Did you have a relationship with him off screen or was it just
I did. We had a very good friendship. I was lucky that he came to the comic strip one night when I was performing. I had heard after the fact he was there, but it literally led to my going on the show. And when I went on his show, he said to me after, the NBC, where it was more relaxed vibe,
sure.
Like, anytime you have a set, Carol, I want you to come on the show. And that was enormously helpful to me, in the 80s to go on and do that many appearances. And we hung out a little bit and were friends. And he also executive produced another special that I did called Carol Doesn't Leave Her Anymore for Cinemax. And it's so funny. Cinemax, now your head goes to like, oh, is it a softcore porn flick? No, it was a comedy special. So he was very helpful to me, too.
But you haven't done it lately?
I did for my book.
Oh, yeah? Was
And
it
I
fun?
haven't done it.
Do you
It was
still talk to
amazing.
him? Have you been like, because like sometimes when you aren't as close to somebody anymore, it's very emotional to do the shows.
You know, it was because I hadn't done it in so many years, but it was very, it really, you know, came together great, and the appearance went very well, which I was happy about. And, you know, it's a different world. I mean, he's not as accessible as he was way back
Sure.
when, and hanging out in the halls in the makeup room, going over his cards and talking to you.
Yeah.
You know, but that kind of shit happens. But, it was great. I mean, if people out there go to my website, carolleifer.com.
Yeah.
I have my reel there, and it's of all the big shows that I did this past year, and my Letterman, you know, clip is on there too. So.
Did you get some big laughs?
I did.
That's great.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because can you imagine that would be like the worst thing? You go back to doing Letterman after not being there for so many years, and then you go and it blows, and it's like, fuck.
It'd be horrible.
Yeah.
But he's so like, you know, he's such a class act, and he's such a weirdo. It's so great. I mean, I always watched him when I was in college. I've been with him since the beginning. So when I did that show, and I didn't get to talk to him really, and I don't know him, but to me that's the greatest sort of prize of doing. You know, that's just to be there with him and have him like you.
Yeah.
Seems such a big deal.
I know.
You did Carson too though, right?
I did, but I only did it once.
Did you feel that with him?
You know, it was a really funny kind of story to me, and I think about it a lot in my show business career because I kind of feel like I got my tenacity that I think you have to have a lot of in show business through this Tonight Show story, because they turned me down. Letterman recommended me to the Tonight Show, and they turned me down for, it's 10 years.
Yeah.
And it was going on for this guy, Jim McCauley, endlessly. And each time trying to, like, you know, mix it up, like, oh, I'll wear a dress this time, or I'll do this stuff or whatever. And each time, and I would do well, and I was like, no, no, no. And finally, I'd just been on Letterman so many times, it was like they couldn't kind of deny me.
Right.
And I finally got to go on in February before Carson retired in May. So it was very surreal because I'd never done the show, and I only did it that one time. But, you know, sitting on the panel with him, and he had a very, and I don't think it was as apparent as a viewer, a kind of a manic energy, like that pencil thing, that drumming, like being next to it, it was like 100 times that. And I remember him commenting to me on one of my jokes, which was one of the bigger jokes in my act about, you know, I don't have any kids. Well, at least none that I know about. And he was drumming, and he turned to me and he said that I don't have any kids thing. That's a good switch, you know.
Off camera?
During the break.
Oh, that's
But I was
great.
also on with Bob Newhart, which was like, holy fuck, this is perfect, you know. So, I don't know. I think of that a lot where, because there's so much rejection in show business, and it's like there just comes to a point where people just can't deny you. You just win the fucking race because you just hung in there.
Yeah. I'm starting to feel that a little.
Right?
Because, well, when it comes right down to it, what else are you going to fucking do?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the weirdest moment is that, you know, I mean, it seems that you've worked pretty steadily either writing or performing, but when you get down to that moment where you're like, fuck, like, what if I really had to change trajectory of life? I have no idea. What am I mean, the last job I had, I was a cook in college at a restaurant making sandwiches.
Right.
What am I going to go back to that?
Yeah.
Did you do anything before? Because we started in college. So.
I did start in college. I had a job when I moved to the city. I was a secretary for a private investigator. Yeah.
Yeah? For a very long time? Long enough to
about
get
a year.
Any good stories or sordid
You know what
details?
it was, Mark?
What?
It was people who had to take lie detector tests to work at either Burger King or an escort service. So I operated this thing called a dictaphone, which was just doing transcripts all day. So I was in kind of my little bubble of work, and my boss was nice, and he would let me work from 11 to 6 without a lunch so I could work late doing stand-up. But that was like basically it. And then, you know, that's what I mean, like the kinship among comics. Like, you know what, that time where you could give up your day job. And I remember doing Jersey gigs for like $40 cash. And that was like, oh my God, that's so much
Driving
money.
an hour. Yeah. And working with another dude, like opening or whatever. Yeah.
Completely. And it was like, I've found the Holy Grail. I'm a working comic.
And you were a big like in the 80s, you toured a lot. I mean,
did.
you were part of that whole boom. of comedy. So you know all those clubs. You've been through all the fucking, like, I just played the Comedy Works in Denver for the first time.
How was that?
It was great.
Yeah?
Have you been there?
I haven't in a long time.
But it's the same place. It's in that basement. I've been hearing about it for 20 years.
Wow.
And it was exciting.
Now, do you get people, because when I go to clubs now, I like to structure the show. I like to bring someone to open for me because I don't like any wild cards.
Right. The weird host. Yeah.
The weird host or the middle who is so filthy, and then I go up and I try to do my thing and it just is not working. So do you just...
I bring a guy sometimes, and sometimes I just kind of... There's always... I think that it's karma sometimes to have a middle that, you know... makes it tough for you.
Yeah.
Because I think I did that a bit when I middled. And sometimes I see it as like, if I, out of 5 out of 6 shows, if the guy gets one over on me, then, all right, then I'm paying some sort of karmic debt. But I do bring a guy with me who I like to be with.
Oh, that's good.
You know, because it's more about hanging out than it is on stage. Like, you know, somebody stuck at a club with somebody you can't stand.
Right.
Or, have that moment. So, all right. So the transition from, because you're writing on a show now or you aren't? You are?
I'm not writing on a show, but I have sold 2 scripts recently.
Oh yeah? For half hours?
Yeah, one for me not to be in. That's actually something I would just executive produce and write, and the other one for me to star in.
Oh really?
Yes.
And who'd you sell it to?
I can't say because they're so uptight about they have to,
And what's the role? Is it as you?
Yeah. Me, as Carol Leifer, and comedian, and living my life, having a partner, not having a kid, and kind of, my kind of curb.
Oh, that's great. So a single camera kind of. Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
That's going to be great.
Yeah.
I hope it comes together. It's going to happen? Definitely, or?
I hope so. I just, I can't say what network it is.
All
just that, Troy Miller is going to do it with me too. He read it and loved it. And
he did what?
He does everything.
Oh.
Yeah. He's very big writer producer.
So let's talk about the transition from straight Carol to not straight Carol.
Okay.
In that, I don't think I've had that conversation. With anybody, maybe an
really?
ex-girlfriend that, but at the time I was like, what do you mean? Is it me? So it was a different conversation.
Yeah.
Than talking to somebody that had this happen sort of later in life. And were you surprised by it? Or I
was completely surprised. Completely surprised.
You were married to a pretty manly man.
Not only married to a manly man, but my relationship with Scheidner was basically about sex.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, I'm mindful of not speaking out of school, with him.
Right. Yeah.
But, that was it. We didn't.
Drugs and sex.
Drugs and sex.
And then he got sober. I know that.
Yeah.
And
I didn't, need to get sober, but, crazy shit with just
the 80s,
doing acid. And I remember Marc Schiff was performing down at Garvin's in DC, and we took some acid.
Shifted? Or you and Scheidner?
Me and Scheidner and a guy named Michael Caine, who's actually since passed on, but we took some acid and flew down. He took the train to DC, and we flew down to be there in the front row when he got on. Just to flip him out.
Yeah.
But, I look back on it now. It did. And we brought pies and threw it in his face.
And he's gone on to become a very Orthodox Jew.
Isn't that funny?
Well, it's weird how people, what transitions they make later in life to sort of, that everybody seems to be on a search whether they know it or not. I think the comics, I know for myself, that you're really looking somehow to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And, you find this persona that works on stage, and you have this access to honesty that gets a very immediate response. But sometimes you sort of surprise yourself where it's sort of like, part of what drives us is we're never quite comfortable, or we wouldn't be up there fucking doing that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden something happens if you're lucky, then you really become yourself. And whatever, it's just odd how people end up sober, radically Jewish, gay, whatever. You come around to some realization where peace of mind and happiness become important.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
So, I never felt, like I was hiding my sexuality. I really had good relationships with men, good sex with men. It was all working. It's just that I went to this Project Angel Food event that...
what is that?
It's a great organization. They bring meals to housebound AIDS patients, and they're here in LA, and they're great. And I was a guest, at a table, and I looked across from me, and there's this woman who was with her girlfriend at the time, but she was absolutely gorgeous, and I really found myself like totally attracted to her and having this mad crush on her. And I think it was interesting too that I made it like like she was with. I didn't give a shit that she was with this other woman. I was like, well, what the fuck, you know?
Was this your first woman crush?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was pretty powerful.
So I tried to, through friends, kind of hook it up, but
Yeah.
she was like not interested, and she told my friend, I'm not going to be this experiment for a straight woman, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then, like, she called me to play golf, which is another thing that, like, hello, didn't think you were gay. And we, you know, met for golf. And
played
I thought
golf.
we played golf together.
Do you play golf?
I do. We do. She's really good. I'm not as good.
But I mean, when she asked you to play golf, were you a golf
Oh yeah,
player?
no.
Oh,
I
okay.
was, I had just started.
Yeah.
Actually, Larry David got me golf lessons for that year for my birthday,
Oh,
which was very
that's
sweet. Thanks for making me a lesbian. Laugh.
Put that on.
But anyway, I really thought this is going to be my chic lesbian fling, and wow, I'm cool, and this was fun, and I just fell in love with her, and it really was this kind of realization of not only is this like working physically, it's like emotionally this is working in a way that it didn't before for me. And it's like almost 15 years later.
Wow. So
Yeah.
like working like not like before, because I'm just trying to think that it just seems like the dynamic that I experience in relationships as a comic, you know, real intimacy is tricky. And the trust involved is, I don't think, natural for comedians. So, I mean, did you find that when you made that relationship happen, that because it was a woman, that you were able not to be as guarded, or like what do you ever psychoanalyze it?
You know, that's a really, really good question, Mark, because I don't know what it is about her, whether it's her as her or just her as a woman, that made the relationship realer and deeper than it had been before with men.
Yeah.
And I mean, I do know that 15 years into it, of all the ups and downs about relationships, you have to be honest with each other, and the trust is based on the honesty. You know, when I hear about some people's relationships and the secrets that one has from the other about something that happened, it's like, I don't get how they keep it together, because to me, that's like the bottom line. It's
What's sort of one of you is living a lie, you know, when you're in that kind of situation.
I mean, I know women who've had like abortions of the guy's
and haven't told
baby,
them,
and have never told them, and
Right.
wound up marrying them. It's like, what the?
And they're still holding on to that secret.
Yeah. Like, how do you have a real relationship with someone if you're hiding stuff as giant as that?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I don't know what clicked for me with her, but whatever did click, it clicked, you know, in a big way. And it was very, you know, it's like, I joke about it in my act, like, you know, I went to gay bookstores for help. Like, yeah, do you have a copy of What the Fuck Just Happened to Me? You know, it's like, you know, it was head spinning. I
can't imagine it really. Because it was not something that you acknowledged as being latent in you before.
I felt myself attracted to women visually in certain ways. But I'd had a, you know, threesome back in my drug-fueled early days with a woman and a guy, and, you know, it was fun, the sex with the woman, but I didn't feel like, holy shit, okay, I'm gay. Yeah, it was like, oh, that was fun, but I'd like to move back now to cock.
Yeah. Move back to cock. This was good.
Yeah, I'm going to go home to cock.
Yeah.
So that's what was so surprising to me.
Yeah. Do you miss cock?
You know what, honestly, what I miss about being with a man, seriously, is the bigness of a man, like being held by a man, embraced, and that bigness.
Well, you can get that still.
I guess if I wanted just a cheesy big squeeze but you know what I mean? That the sizeness, because my partner is petite and smaller than me. So
Well, that's interesting. So you know the cock or the mentality, all that? No, just the physicality.
I don't know. The cock, it comes with a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of bullshit involved.
That goes both ways.
That's true. Vagina's got its issues.
Yeah.
Cock's got its own.
But
Michigas.
But in all honesty, though, having been in a long-term relationship, I have to assume that a relationship is a relationship.
Yes.
I mean, you're going to go through everything you go through in any other relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be like, people listen to me sometimes and I get, flack, for identifying gender difference or race difference. But I mean, it is different.
Yes.
But ultimately, it's just people.
It is ultimately just people, and sex is its own thing,
Right.
whether it's a man or a woman.
Right.
And relationships are hard. They're certainly, I don't know anybody who just breezes through their relationship. It takes work.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, it's very satisfying, thing. I like being in a couple. And how long have you been in your couple?
Right now?
Yes.
This one's gotten pretty, we went through a really gnarly, horrible breakup panic thing because I've been divorced twice and the last one hurt bad. And I've done a lot of acting out because of it. And I was not in any way prepared to engage in being in love or having that or even addressing intimacy because it was I'm too paranoid.
You were married to Mishna, right?
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You know her from book things?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, well, she's got
Pretty,
a baby
too.
now. I know. She's got a baby now and whatever. And I'm really just starting to be able to sort of deal with it. Mm-hmm. I mean, the thing about being left is it's like you don't really have a choice. I mean, that's a horrible to realize you don't have control over.
Yeah.
And so it took a long time. But when I started with this one, it was all crazy because I'm crazy and I attract crazy people. And then it blew up in the worst, most dramatic way possible. And then after 3 months, I'm like, I want to try again. So that's sort of behind us. Like I knew how bad it got.
Yeah.
And it got bad enough for me to be afraid of it.
Uh-huh.
So
well, that
it's
shows
kinda,
that it has some durability.
Well, now, we're both afraid of that. So
Does she live with you here?
No. So a healthy amount of fear, is okay.
Right.
But I don't know. I'm a childless man at 47. So and people say, well, you could have a kid. I'm like, do I want one? I mean, you have a kid.
I have a kid.
How
and
old?
had my kid late.
How old?
My kid is 5.
Wow. And who had the kid?
We adopted him from Guatemala.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And is that great?
It is pretty great.
Yeah?
Yeah. I would really recommend, if, you have to be ready for children yourself, obviously first, but I recommend it to, anybody who thinks they might be too old or whatever. It's like, I think having a kid, older has been great.
Yeah.
And I could do it at this age. I never thought I'd have kids. My partner, started the discussion of wanting to do it. And I kind of went along for the ride. And it's like, wow, am I really glad that I went along for the ride.
Is there a big age difference between you and your partner?
I'm 7 years older than her.
That's not bad.
No, it's not bad.
Yeah. And what did your mom, the shrink, think of all this?
Oh, my God. You know what? This is, I think, the beauty of Judaism, Mark. Okay?
Because please tell me what it is.
It is. This is why I love my faith. I love my tribe. When this whole thing happened, with falling in love with my partner, Lori, I didn't go home until about a year to talk to my parents about it because you want to make sure it's real.
Yeah.
It's another thing for my act. I didn't want to pull an Anne Heche.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
So I went home and I really thought the way my picture of it was that I'm going to be the rock and my parents are going to be the basket cases. And as life shows you, what you picture many times, the opposite happens. And I was the basket case. I was emotional about it. My parents were very cool about it. They were, my mother was like, look, love is a gift from God. Well, this is great. This is great news. Why are you upset? And I remember my beautiful father saying, Carol, why are you crying? And I said, Dad, because I thought you would be disappointed. And my father said, disappointed? I'll tell you when I was disappointed, when you married that Shagitz. So the fact that Lori is Jewish was like the trump card.
Oh,
hello,
really?
yeah, let's get the Manischewitz and do the horror. She's with a Jew now.
No kidding.
Yeah.
That's very touching.
Yeah.
It really is. Because can you identify that baggage that you brought to that thing other than just disappointment? Were you... because that's heavy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That you thought that they were more traditional or
Right.
that they were expecting something from you.
I just think when you come out, you have to face that thing of, my parents obviously were sorry that my first marriage didn't work, but they saw me with a guy and having kids and having that life and just being this, still you, but a different you, and I love this person, and she's a woman. Also, to parents of my generation, is still
Sure.
very,
Yeah. So,
you know,
yeah.
disconcerting.
Yeah.
So that was the most difficult part for me. But just when I saw that they were like, look, it's you when you're in love. What's bad?
Yeah. That's really something.
Yeah.
And that must be a fairly sort of empowering story to tell, I would think, to groups of people that have been through this.
Yeah. I mean, look, we could sit here and talk for another hour about the difference between gay men and, gay women in terms of just sexuality. Like, I think men know instinctively what their sexuality is. It's not on such a, continuum like it is with women, where a woman, can be with men and then be with women. That's pretty,
And also, I think,
fluid.
like, from an outsider's point of view, it seems that the gay male community is at different points in its history as a community, very defined specifically by the sexuality.
right.
And that women, just gay women, by virtue of the fact that gay community was already established, have sort of had to be aligned with that, and I don't think it's the same.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think also a woman saying that she, fell in love with a woman, for parents, I think is easier to handle than a man falling in love with another
Really?
man. I think it's still a little more of a little bit of a bridge too far for
Right.
some.
Right.
I mean, I saw a really fascinating 2020, where they do What Would You Do? They
Right.
set up the thing, and they had two women with kids in a restaurant in Texas, and the waitress was like, I'm not going to serve you, you're lesbian. And the whole clientele in the restaurant charged on this waitress, like, how dare you? And, you're a racist, you're
yes,
homophobic,
yeah.
and blah, blah, blah. It was like mayhem. They did the same thing with two men who came in with two kids, and the one said, I'm not going to serve you. And you're like, most people didn't say anything. And one guy was like, gave her a thumbs up, covertly.
Right.
There's still that, a lot of prejudice there.
Yeah, it's all sort of confounding because it's so threatening to people.
Yeah.
Somehow they become very personally. There's something implicating about it. I'm not sure what it is, because I don't understand how the first reaction is that's wrong. Like, I can understand the first reaction being like, I'm uncomfortable with it. And you're going to react out of that.
Yeah.
But the morality thing, I don't get. It's just baffling. Now, how did some of the old guard of your comedy peers react? Like Jerry and Larry and Paul?
They were all
Any good jokes?
great about it.
Yeah.
Well, my straight male friends, were the most supportive, of course, because they were like, I want to hear everything slowly and in great detail.
Right.
I remember Seinfeld saying to me, I think I will be your only male friend who is not sexually titillated by this. But, I don't know.
Again, this is why I'm uncomfortable with him. That's number 2 on the list.
He's...
No, I know.
Yeah.
He's being nice. Yeah, that was a good joke.
No, they were all... everybody was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Larry, are you still friends with Larry Miller? Mm-hmm. I can't imagine the sort of strange, kind of awkward, but very genuine reaction he had.
He is, like I said, I have a really different relationship. They are like brothers. And
Yeah.
I feel we just did we did the University of Judaism together in December, a little holiday show.
You and Larry?
Yeah. That was great. I don't know. I always feel like going back to what we said at the beginning of the trust, and especially with these guys that I came up with for almost 35 years.
Yeah.
I'll always know them in a different way than I know any other comics per se, even, because we shared so much.
Do you feel that that comedy has changed at all, or has just gotten bigger? I mean, do you feel like that you have a different attitude towards whatever's happening now in comedy, or because I think it was a much more intimate business when you started?
It was, but I think the great equalizer, and tell me if you agree with me or disagree, I still think, funny works, and when you're not funny, it doesn't. And it's like whatever I may like about certain comics or not like, it's like if they get the laughs and people are enjoying it, it's like they're doing it.
Right. Yeah.
And
I've grown to feel that way too.
And the kind of the people who are the bright stars who kind of really don't have any legs, it's proven eventually.
Yeah.
You know, that they don't have it.
That's right. You know, if you stay in it long enough, not only, like you said, well, eventually you'll get your shot, and you know, hopefully if you don't destroy yourself.
Right.
But you also live long enough to see people go up and come down, and then try to figure out what they're going to do next. It's a long haul. And all this, you know, when you see the sort of bravado that comes with somebody rising, that you just sort of like, why, I hope, you know.
Sit tight.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's only a handful of dudes that, you know, made the, you know, they're, and you know, a lot of them that, you know, the one thing that I admired about Paul when I talked to him was that, you know, after he made all that money and he did his run, he was like, yeah, I'm going to relax. I'm going to raise my kid. You know, I'm going to live a quality of life that I'm enabled to by this tremendous success, and I'm going to enjoy it. You don't talk to many people like that.
No. And he really is. I think of all the funny people I've known over my amazing life and career, he's like still one of the funniest. I mean, one-on-one in a group, the funniest guy ever. He's just, it's so in him, that spark, you know?
Yeah.
He's just so good.
Yeah. And I think he really got outside, because I gravitated towards him as well after I saw Diner and before I'd done comedy. I thought he had a very interesting timing, and he was very quick, and he was kind of soft and very charming, and you know, he wasn't not overbearing. And it was always sort of like, you know, I'm just thinking about something.
Right.
You know, and I think he was also fortunate that he was a good looking guy. You know, then that had a lot to do with like, you know, his ability to kind of really manifest a movie career and everything else. Because Louis C.K. once said to me years ago, he's like, you know, we were walking down the street in the Lower East Side. He's like, I just want to get on Letterman before I lose all my hair and get really fat. And he was so mad about somebody in the business because he's like, comedy was for us, the ugly guys.
Right.
But Paul was an attractive guy.
Yeah. But you know, even that's what I love about comedy too. You know, I love Louis' show, and like when I watch it, it makes me feel good about the state of the art. And I was just flying back from New York, you know, this Sunday, and I'd never seen the show episodes.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and it's fucking great.
Which one? Oh, the Louis C.K. show?
No, episodes is the one with Matt LeBlanc and Showtime show.
Yeah.
And I kind of watched it reluctantly. It's like, oh my God, it's really fucking good.
Yeah, I think that a lot of things get missed now because of the media landscape.
Yeah.
I mean, even Julia Louis-Dreyfus' show, she is such an amazing comic actress. I mean, if I fell on a plane, like, I don't find myself watching it at home, but the new old Christine stuff.
Yeah.
But she's just so fucking funny.
Yeah. She's great. That show I thought was great.
Yeah, and that guy who plays her husband. Were you friends with her?
Yeah. You know, I mean, when you work on that show, it was, I know that, you know, most people think you're together all the time. It's like, you're really with the writers all the time. You know, you're
in
with
a
the
room,
cast.
hammering out stories.
I mean, that's what made me laugh, I'm sure all of us, so much about the Charlie Sheen thing. It's like, you have the dream job. You're an actor on a sitcom, not even a drama. You work for 2 hours every day, and you're paid this much. It was the dream job. So, but that was true about the cast too. I mean, it's like lightning in a bottle to get those four together,
right,
and set up the team that Larry and Jerry did.
Are you friends with Michael Richards?
I haven't seen Michael. I mean, I like Michael, and
because he was sort of a comic, you know, originally. Wasn't he? But he was out here though. Wasn't he mostly?
And he was on Fridays with Larry David. So that's how that goes.
He's an odd guy. I don't know how to get in touch with him. I try to talk to him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, I got to figure it out. I still book this, you know, by virtue of, like, you know, how do I get hold of you on Facebook? Well, it was great talking to you, Carol.
Yeah, same here.
What's the name of the book is If You Lie About Your Age.
When You Lie About Your Age. The Terrorists Win.
And that's available, and you still do comedy, and you're working, and you're an inspiration.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, I'm being honest.
Wow. Well, I really enjoyed it, but I knew I would because I've listened to your podcast, and you're a comic.
Yes.
I mean, right there.
Yeah.
You know, Emis, right there.
And a Jew.
Yes.
So, and we didn't do a lot of Jewy stuff.
No.
That's good, because I thought that might happen.
Yeah.
But we're Jews.
We're Jews. We know that.
Enough said. Thanks. That's our show, folks. Thank you for listening. Did I just say folks? That's our show. What the fuckers? What the fuck buddies? People? I'm sorry I'm so punchy. I mean, I feel like I can barely talk. I slept like 3 hours because I was packing and eating tortilla chips and watching television and tweeting when I should be sleeping. But that's our show. Please go and thank you, Carol Leifer. What a lovely woman. And what a fun time it was to talk to her. And go to WTFpod.com. Please get on the mailing list. I'm about to write an update right after I say this. Get on that mailing list. I do email you guys, every Monday. Get the app. Upload the premium app. Listen to all of the episodes from episode 1. You can get an app for an iPhone, iPad, iPod Touch, Droid. You can get a desktop app, and with that upgrade, you can stream every episode. Obviously, the most recent 50 are always free. Kick in some shekels. We are still, listener supported, even though it sounds like we're running a big operation over here. I'm still in my garage. I'm still sweating. I'm making a living, but that's part of it. If you want to support the show, if you kick in the $10 a month donation, I'll send you a t-shirt. If you do, you can donate whatever amount you want. If you do the $250 super premium donation, I'll give you all 4 of my CDs. Used to be 3, now it's 4. A special best of WTF Volume 1, 2 t-shirts, stickers, and you know what? How about a button? I got buttons. Did I mention that? I got buttons. Love buttons. I'm at Hilarities this Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That is August 25, 26, 27, 28 in Cleveland, Ohio. Who wants a button? Anyone want a button? You can go to busybeaver.net/WTF right now and get a free limited edition glow-in-the-dark with Marc Maron button. Glow-in-the-dark with Marc Maron button? How about a glow-in-the-dark WTF with Marc Maron button for free? First 500 people, get on it. busybeaver.net. Also, go there and order your buttons. You can get buttons for anything. It's amazing. Holy fuck, I'm all buttoned out. Stanhope on Thursday.